Hey folks, Eshin Lacoste here from All Wise Transformation, where we talk about mental health, spiritual practice, and self-care. And today, I wanted to talk about the self-care practice of getting a colonoscopy done. It was definitely an interesting experience. And I think I think that everybody should experience getting a colonoscopy done. It's one of those things where it's a preventative measure where they're checking for polyps. They're sort of like pre-cancerous growth that are in your colon. It's one of those things where I never thought that I would be here. Or never thought I would have to experience going through a preventative measure at my age. For folks who don't know, I'm 48, and 45 ish, 40 ish is where folks should be thinking about getting a colonoscopy done to, again, it's a preventive measure. It's one of those high risk situations, specifically if, that runs in your family. Um, and it's a very high accurate procedure that has like a 95% chance of catching something if it is cancerous. And so, they could remove the polyps because the polyps have developed into cancerous cells and they start growing in your intense intestines. Yeah, it's a life-saving procedure. And I I chose to have a light sedation. So you could have sedation where you could be completely knocked out or nothing at all, where you're up, or somewhere in the middle. And I chose to do somewhere in the middle where I um, didn't want to be fully knocked out. And I am happy that I got the experience to see inside my intestines. And so there is like a prep medication that you have to take, which is really, really bad. But I personally, because they also give you like a flavoring, and it's like lemon, and the lemon is supposed to sort of mask the how bad the medication is. And uh and I tried it with the lemonade flavor, and I tried it without the lemonade flavor. But first it was the lemonade flavor, and I was like, "Oh, this is really, really bad." Because I had to drink about like eight ounces of that stuff, and I had to fast the day before, and I couldn't do anything or eat anything the day of the procedure. I do have to admit, in the morning, the day of, I did have the day before, I should say, the day before, I did have like some fruit and some like yogurt, and I did say take some meds. Um, and then for most of the day, I sort of like I fasted, drank lots of water. Yeah, I one did not like the taste of the flavored um taste of the medication because it was supposed to cover that for you. And then I tried it without the meds, and it was a little bit more, palatable, not by much, but it was a whole lot more palatable than with the lemonade flavor, which I think, yeah. Yeah, I think the lemonade flavor made it taste even worse, but that's just me. Um, so the day the day of the procedure, that morning, I was going to the bathroom quite a bit. And so I would recommend not having a lot to do the day of your procedure. Originally I was planning on working, um, and then going there to the hospital. They do say to have somebody to sort of transport you afterwards. because the sedation that they give you is pretty strong. And the risk of you sort of like getting into accident or any liability issues when it comes to medication and sedation. I think the hospital tries to side on the side on the side on caution, the side of caution, caution of the side of the caution, side of caution. You know what I mean? They're really cautious about letting folks leave. Even though when I did sort of like the mid tier of sedation, and I was up for the whole process. I was up for when he stuck the camera up my bong, and then like continue sort of shoveling the long camera up my bong. Um, and yeah, no, it was definitely interesting experience. The nurses on staff were awesome. They really tried to create an atmosphere of compassion, because I was really really nervous. I mean, like super nervous, to the point where like my legs were shaking, and I just couldn't like keep any particular thoughts in. Like I was sort of like coming in and out of awareness, and sometimes the nurse would ask me something, and I would have to sort of ask for them to repeat it, or um uh yeah, it just was very anxiety inducing. So again, I suggest not not doing anything, because the day of that morning, I was doing some reading, uh and I was like, at first I thought I had to fart. Can I say that on here? It's my channel. I guess I could say tooting or farting, tooting, farting. And it wasn't. I, you know, create a slight mess, and I literally had to rush to the bathroom, and I sort of had to clean up after myself, and I was glad that I was home, because if I was at work, in the office, I don't know, I don't know how well that would have gone for my self-esteem. So, I highly suggest that the day of, that folks do not engage in a lot of significant activities, because it does clean you out. It really really cleans you out. Um, so I'm all about preventative measures. Um, I was slightly worried about the insurance piece, and so I did call my insurance to be sure that I was covered. And as a preventative measure, it is covered. Again, I think that really depends on your insurance. And so my insurance was covered, and even the doctor who did the procedure. Now the interesting thing is that if the doctor did find something, which he didn't, I had a clear bill of health. If if he had found something, then he would have removed it, usually with a polyp. Again, that sort of is what they're looking for, because if the polyps sort of settle in, they start turning into cancerous cells. That I would have been charged for. And it's a pretty penny. We're talking close to like five something, 5,000 something. Um, and again, really depends on your insurance. And so I encourage folks to really um, if their insurance covers this, specifically if they're going into it. Again, it's not a comfortable process. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a anxiety inducing. It's a very invasive procedure. You feel very vulnerable and exposed. Um, and I have to admit the nurses there did a really good job at sort of like creating a really compassionate, empathetic, and caring space. And kudos to the nursing staff there. You did a really 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 good job. And so I just want to send that vibe out there. So yeah, I think I think I think a lot of people should do this. I know a lot of people won't, because we live in a world where we are consuming um, microplastics, and so to a certain degree, that's changing our biological makeup. We are there's because there's so many humans, right? There is, what is it, 7 billion or 9 billion? Alexa, how many people are in the world? 8.3 billion people. So according to like Alexa, there's 8.3 billion people in the world. And so um, that leaves itself open to a variety of genetic variety and genetic differences, um, to be able to adapt and and uh, and be resilient. Because if there are any particular tragedies that happen, we need to sort of adapt. But I guess my point is that because there are so many of us, that raises the risk for more genetic cancerous issues that can arrive more often than if our population was smaller. And so we live in a world where I think we have the technology to be able to um to diagnose, to to have preventive measures. And so all I can say is, as we become older, we are living longer, which again, leaves us open to a variety of diseases and cancerous um, and illnesses that would be a problem. And I am aging. I think part of my self-care is to be up with not only my regular checkups, but to check up on my SCI status, because I am pretty active sexually. And so in order to maintain my health, I have to sort of maintain my body, right? Because my body is literally the vehicle that I use to move through the world. And so if I'm not engaging in sort of these preventative measures, I'm sort of doing myself a disservice. Um, yeah, I come from a family that has more so strokes and heart attacks and not necessarily cancer, so that's sort of low on the bar, right? Like I didn't technically need to do a colonoscopy. And I know a lot of people who don't do colonoscopies, and a lot of people who don't even don't even have a doctor to be able to go to for them to suggest or recommend a colonoscopy to be done. So I'm not only lucky that I have the privilege to have insurance to be able to do this. Um, I'm also, knocking out one possible thing that could be an issue. Again, because you never really know, right? We live in a world that is so polluted on various levels, from the water we drink to the food we eat to the air we're breathing, right? And so, yeah, science shows that individuals or communities that live close to waste dumps or garbage dumps or corporations or companies that are pumping pollutions into the air, like those communities have higher risks, um, or are more susceptible, or there's a higher percentage of individuals who do have various illnesses from childhood, from attention or cognitive issues, um, to pulmonary, to cancerous, right? And so research shows that individuals or communities that live close to pollution producing sites have a higher risk of various diseases. And so again, you never know. I knew that there was a low to no chance of the doctor finding a polyp, um, but better to be on the safe side. And as a queer man who sometimes engage in various sexual activities, um, it's also good to know the health that's down there. It's the same thing for a woman, um different for one where they sort of have to sort of do their regular checkups. And so um I think that I'm more susceptible to heart attacks and strokes because that runs on both sides of my family. My grandmother on my dad's side may have died from a stroke. My father had a heart attack, survived. My grandmother didn't. I think the autopsy sort of showed that it was a pretty bad stroke. Um, and then on my mom's side, right, my mom, folks have had heart attacks, and then she herself, this year or the end of last year, um, had a stroke. And so the percentage of me having a stroke is quite higher than the percentage of me having sort of cancerous. But again, cancer can come in various forms, right? My lymph nodes could develop cancer, various tumors. Again, better to be safe than sorry. I think it's something that one is a privilege to be able to do, and two, if you can do it. Again, everything from the drinking of the medication to sort of clear out my system was unpleasant. The sweet spot was the nurses who really were empathetic, and then the uncomfortable spot was the camera going going in my rear. The doctor was sweet, but I always think doctors are for the most part awkward um individuals. I should take that back. I've had one primary doctor. Um, oh, maybe I should say specialists. I think doctors who are specialists, at least in my opinion, my experience, seem to fall on the spectrum, to seem to have um, not the greatest bedside manner. Again, I'm not saying that my particular doctor who did the colonoscopy was any of that, but he was awkward. But I think he was really trying to um to calm me, right? Because I was very anxious about the whole process, and I think it's one of those things where you really have no control whatsoever, from getting completely undressed and putting on a robe. You're sort of vulnerable there, to the things that they hook up on you, to the IV, right? Like, again, you have the agency to be like, fuck that. I don't want to do any of that, and walk out, or not even set up. And so I don't want to frame it in the sense that you have no agency. You do. You could, at any point, I could have walked out and be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. Blah 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 blah. But I do think there is something um, that leaves you open to feeling that this is an area of your life that you have no control. And then in the greater scheme, right? Like, yeah, you don't have control over a lot of things. Um, and to believe that you do, um, is is delusional. And so to have moments like that where I have no power, or I have no authority, or I have no the power differential between the nurse and me is completely different, and the doctor power differential between the nurses and me is also very different. Um, and so I want to acknowledge that medical providers have a high status in our society, and I have family members who do not like hospitals, and who do not take any medication, from ibuprofen to Tylenol, and um or even just over the counter allergy meds, right? They want nothing to do with that. I think one, because they try to hold it sort of like a purist mindset. Um and I think too, right, it is unnerving to feel that powerless. Um, yeah, I don't know any other word or way to describe it. Um, and so I encourage folks to engage in preventive care, specifically a colonoscopy. Again, you could be knocked out for it. You don't have to be up while they do their thing, and or you could sort of choose to sort of engage in that very uncomfortable, um, eye-opening, vulnerable process. Because again, it was very interesting to sort of see inside my rectum. I don't know, um, I don't know how else to really describe that experience. I just thought I wanted to share that with folks. Colonoscopy, a very interesting process and very interesting state of being and mind to be. And it was my first. They did say that I I should come back in 10 years. I'm probably not because I think I'm probably at the low end of being diagnosed with rectal cancer. Again, who knows, right? But the fact that I've gone through this, the fact that I've sort of gotten a clear bill of health, um, that's one sort of hurdle in the process of aging. And I'm I'm excited about getting older. I'm scared about getting older. I'm aware that I still have a long way to go before I'm considered old, but in some circles I am considered old. But I guess in my terms, old, right? Like, um, 60, I probably would consider myself old. Um, but people say, it's really about the state of mind that you're in that sort of really determines on how you feel age-wise, right? And I think there's a certain truth to that, right? I think if you have a very youthful attitude and mindset, I think that aura tends to sort of permeate off of you. Um, and if you have a very sort of traumatic, hard life, um, and your mindset kinds of reflect that, yeah, you're going to sort of resemble that to a certain degree. And again, that's probably pigeonholing that concept, or simplifying that concept. And again, I think with most things there isn't one or the other. There's also the middle, the gray area, right? Like I think most things, if not everything, sort of falls on a spectrum. Um, and so the mindset also falls on a spectrum. And again, that varies with the access that you have to financial abilities, um, and that also minds that that your life wasn't traumatic or there's numerous diversities that you had to sort of overcome. But the aging process, this was one hurdle. I think the colonoscopy is a milestone, or one of or one of those things that says, I am no longer considered young, right? I don't really know how to frame that particular concept. But I do know that um, I'm moving into a phase in my life where I am really coming into terms into, or I'm really settling into, um, and having to sort of do the colonoscopy was one of those things that said, yeah, things are changing for me. Yeah, and if I'm not aware, and if I'm not, um, making plans to age gracefully or age healthy. Um, yeah, because I am in the body that I'm in. I don't get another, unless I live long enough, where we could sort of download our consciousness into robots or like the Matrix, um, or sort of become a hybrid of cyborg and human. Um, if I live long enough, yeah, I love the aging process, and I'm scared of the aging process. Yeah, it's a journey. Uh, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share about self-care today, in regards to all wise transformation, where we talk about mental health, spiritual practice, and self-care. Um, if you're not doing it, be compassionate to yourself these days. Be kind.